killed his friend.
Are you wearing a helmet and all that?
Yeah.
A patient comes back to thank his rescuers. All of them.
It was very, very, very emotional.
Where are we going to go from here? Pindus?
And a flying doctor comes down to earth for a night shift on the streets of Leeds.
When travelling at 150 miles an hour, even an outsized county like Yorkshire shrinks to a more manageable size. And cutting out the country lanes sometimes means a half-hour drive can be a 5-minute flight.
But out towards the east coast, you can be in for a long wait for help, even from the air. On a remote farm on the edge of the North York moors, there's been an accident. This crane weighs 7.5 tonnes, and it's run over drainage contractor Darren Patterson's leg. It's badly broken. Helimed 99 is on the case. Paramedic Pat Greekin's seen accidents like this before.
If he is as seriously as it's sounding from the caller, then this gentleman will need to be into James Cook Hospital as quickly as possible. It depends on whereabouts on his leg it is, if it's lower leg or upper leg. If it's upper leg, if it's on the femur, he can basically bleed to death in the femur if it's crushed and damaged arteries and veins in his leg. So it is a potential life-threatening injury.
Darren's workmates have been waiting 20 minutes for help to arrive. He was walking alongside the crane when one of its caterpillar tracks crushed his leg.
Yeah, it looks like there's someone by the front wheels of that tractor, the one with the jib. The window's still there. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty sure with the guy.
Okay, just watch over a fence, the head driver.
Darren was completing the last job on the final day of a 2-week contract when the accident happened. Now all he wants is pain relief.
Darren, right.
My leg's completely crushed, so
right.
Below the knee it's completely crushed.
Right, so it's the track?
Yeah,
it's actually gone over here?
Yeah, right up to the knee. To there.
Right to there, right.
Crushed in the
Yes,
bottom.
yes. Okay, mate.
It's alright above the knee, yeah.
Right above the knee?
Yeah, it's alright above there.
Okay,
but it's crushed there.
I'll have a quick look at it, Daz.
Well, honestly, cut the jeans in because I don't...
I'm not going to, I'll cut the jeans, you're alright.
Every time I move, it's the pain. I don't want to see it.
Alright.
The ground crew have driven 20 miles and walked half a mile to reach the accident scene.
What I'm going to do is give you some Entonox and that happens straight away, alright?
And it won't knock us out though.
No.
Pat's carefully assessing whether the weight of the crane has crushed the blood vessels supplying Darren's foot. If it has, he could lose his lower leg.
Gent's in a lot of pain, just give him a little bit of pain relief before I can even look at the splint in the leg. It's quite badly crushed.
Sharp scratch coming up in a sec.
Yeah.
Tired.
You feel tired, mate? Well, it's your body's just going, hey, keep still for me.
The good news is Pat thinks he can detect a weak pulse in Darren's foot.
I feel like I'm going to pass out.
Alright, Daz, just keep going.
But what we need to do is make sure you're safe first. And can I just confirm once again you've not hurt yourself anywhere else?
No.
And it was just the track that went over your leg?
Yeah.
You're getting a bit cold now as well?
Yeah, I'm being cold for yonks.
Yeah, okay.
Shivering like
Alright.
Can you get
Okay, guys.
Darren's language is a little colourful, perhaps understandably.
Gone as well, yeah.
What he doesn't realise is that paramedic Sammy Wills doesn't approve of many of his favourite words and often tells off her colleagues if they use them.
Take that boot off.
As we approached the gentleman, I could hear him before I could see him. He was in a lot of pain and verbalising that quite remarkably, letting me know how much it did hurt him.
Oh, the digger, don't move the digger.
I personally choose not to use foul language. He chose to swear and I believe it was helping him vent his pain at that time. I chose to blinker it out. I heard the words that it hurts and where it hurts.
You have enough morphine now to knock an elephant out.
Darren's now been given as many painkillers as the paramedics dare dispense, but he's still in severe pain. And it's not helping his temper. The workmate who was driving the crane is in big trouble with Helimed 99's patient.
I'll tell you what, I just wish I could get up because I'd kick you up the ass with my other foot.
There are no hard feelings though. Darren needs his workmates to help carry him to the helicopter. It could be worse. The nearest road's half a mile away. Pat knows Darren's leg needs urgent hospital treatment, followed by emergency surgery at James Cook Hospital in Middlesbrough. But that's at least an hour away by road. And the weather is about to take a turn for the worse.
There's a bad weather front coming in from the north. If we have difficulty, we're going to turn around and go to Scarborough. All right?
So we can't confirm yet.
But we can't confirm where we're going, but we're going to try for Middlesbrough.
Coming up, their patient turns out to be terrified of flying, and the crew face a battle with nature to get him to hospital.
Do we have any options? We can't go that way.
An accident victim's reunited with a watch he lost in a head-on smash.
Can't thank you enough, honestly.
And Flying Dr. Andy's caught up in a murder investigation.
Potentially very serious, if not fatally injured.
The flying paramedics can fly up to 12 missions a day, but some cases will stay in their memories forever, often for the wrong reasons.
Kyle Turner's mum knew he was born to ride a motorbike.
We got one of those battery-powered motorbikes when it was one, but 4, I got a real motorbike. He knew every part that a motorbike had, and he just lived for motorbikes.
But one summer's day, Kyle's love for speed resulted in a freak accident. He collided head-on with biking friend Scott Moffat while off trail riding near his home.
What grid difference you got, love?
Within minutes of the crash, HeliMed 99 dispatcher Chris Solomons is scrambling the chopper. It's 40 miles to the former colliery where the accidents happened. Even at 160 miles an hour, that's 15 minutes. The news from the scene of the accident isn't good.
One casualty on scene, left arm fractures, left leg fractures, 1 DOA on scene. Repeat, 1 DOA on scene. Over.
Yeah, Roger, thanks for that. All received. Thanks.
In the former mining community of Moor Ends, everyone knows there's been a major accident, including Cole's mother.
I'd seen all the fire engines, the ambulances, and they were just at bottom of the street. My little girl Paris, she went running down to the bottom of the street, and she just came back and she was screaming at me. I couldn't make out what she was saying. He's had an accident on his bike, it's Kyle. And as I've got halfway down the street, I seen the air ambulance above. And I just stood there and I screamed. I just knew. And then I'd seen my husband's best friend coming towards me. And I just knew by his face. And I just kept saying to him, just smile, smile for me. And he just kept shaking his head, and I knew then, before I'd even got up there, that he was gone.
HeliMed 99 is too late to save Kyle. But the battle is on to get his friend Scott to hospital. Leg fractures can be fatal, and he could have a collapsed lung.
Right, we've got 1 DOA over there.
Okay.
And this one's got a fractured tib, it looks like, open.
Okay.
And
been helmeted at all?
Arm,
Been helmeted at all?
I think so.
Yeah?
I can see helmets around. Scott?
Yeah?
Were you wearing a helmet and all that?
Yeah. Okay.
The accidents happened in a remote area of wasteland. The ground paramedics had to hitch a lift on an off-road bike to get here. HeliMed 99 is Scott's only hope of a rapid journey to hospital.
Anybody witness what happened?
I didn't wait on scene.
No, right. Was there anybody that was?
Bikes going round and they just stopped, so we thought something had happened, so we could mush it over and Scott laid there.
You're going to cut your top, mate, I'm sorry.
Okay. Is he going to be alright?
Scott's girlfriend Laura has also heard about the accident and come running.
Right.
Her boyfriend's in severe pain.
That hurts. Sorry.
Flying Dr. Andy Pountney has his work cut out. Scott's in such agony, he's going to give him ketamine, a powerful painkiller.
Leave it there, mate.
Please,
That's it.
darling, they're making you better.
That's it. Just leave it there.
Come on, you'll be alright.
I'm worried about his chest. Yeah. Sure he's got no.
Scott needs urgent hospital treatment, but if he does have a collapsed lung, His condition could deteriorate rapidly in the air. Dr. Andy has to be sure it's safe to fly him.
Andy, I'm just exposing this right leg because I think it's going to be easier for us to manoeuvre him about with his trousers off.
Yeah. Got him. You're right. That's fine, the ketamine just knocked him out a little bit.
The HeliMed crew have to balance the need for speed with making sure their patients are in a fit state to fly. And Scott's not there yet. Coming up, Dr. Andy decides to make a move and the police begin to investigate the accident.
His oxygen levels are okay at the moment, so we're happy with that.
Freak weather forces HeliMed 99 out to sea.
I only had to look out to the left and it was total sea.
And flying Dr. Andy is called in to help an ambulance crew in trouble.
When the HeliMed team leave their patients at the hospital door, they often lose touch with the people whose lives they've saved, but sometimes there's a reunion.
At HeliMed 99's hangar at Leeds Bradford Airport, they're getting prepared for a special visitor.
Billy Connell is a former patient of ours. He was involved in a really bad car smash just over the road from the airport. Unusually for him, the fire crew that cut him out are his colleagues. He used to be a fireman. The surprise for him today is he's coming up to the airbase to visit us, but what he doesn't know is the big surprise. His colleagues, the fire crew, are going to be here today.
Billy is on his way, unaware of the surprise that lies ahead.
I've been in helicopters. I was with the Air Sea Rescue at RAF Valley. I did a little bit of time with them when we were in the fire brigade. So I've been in helicopter, but to be honest, I didn't even know it was there. I actually thought it was further up.
Sammy remembers the day Billy had his crash well.
Billy's accident really sticks in my memory, not only because it was just over the road from the airbase, but because there was 2 casualties and both of them warranted the use of an air ambulance. It was a hard decision to make whether we were going to fly Billy or the other gentleman, who had a massive head injury. We were having to breathe for him as well. Unfortunately for Billy, he was still trapped in the car. It was his colleagues, the firemen, that were cutting him out at the time as we left.
I turned to one of my colleagues and said, "It's Billy." And when it is one of your colleagues or your friend or your family, it's even more traumatic.
It's going to be really good to see Billy again. I'm looking forward to meeting him.
Even as he arrives and sees a familiar fire engine on the helipad, Billy doesn't suspect a thing.
There's a fire engine, like my old pump was like that. We had the swimming pool.
Hello, Billy.
This is Pat.
Hiya. How you doing, mate?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good. Nice to see you.
Good.
Come on in.
Thank you.
We'll get you.
As paramedic Pat Greekin greets Billy at Air Ambulance headquarters front door, the fire crews go through the hangar doors at the back.
Can you fit through?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Good lad.
Yeah.
You are behind the scenes here.
All right.
And finally, Billy realises he's been set up.
Come on,
Billy. Going out there.
Come on, Billy.
I thought, oh no, what's this about? How am I going to react to this? How are you doing? I seen you for ages. Then they're all saying, oh, Billy, I haven't seen you for ages. How are you getting on now? Da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, there's tears in my eyes, and it was very, very, very emotional. Did they give you cushions to put on your jumpers now? Hey, how are you?
And he has nothing but praise for his old fire crew colleagues who had to cut him out of his wrecked car.
In the time I was in the fire brigade all those years, I've never been to one where I knew the person in the car.
It really is good.
God, it must be years.
I recognise you straight away with this.
It's okay going to an accident or a fire or whatever and looking after someone and caring, and they do care, you care an awful lot. But there's no knowing them, is there? And suddenly you know someone who's in there. I don't know how I'd feel if I opened a car door, crushed, and saw a friend of mine in there or a relative. I really don't know. Penny rang me up and said,
Local farmer John Penny witnessed the crash.
God knows how he got through with it.
So I just looked round, opened my door, I heard the almighty bang over my right shoulder behind me. I could see the cars just meet up and obviously go up It's like two horses rearing up and then just drop back down. I just got my foot obviously on the handle of the door and just pulled the door open. And all I could think was all the time it was going through my mind, the car's going to explode. It's going to explode. And as I pulled the door open, obviously Billy was there and I'd seen blood and things, you know, I just didn't know what to do at first. But I was more bothered. All I could think was the car is smoking, it's going to set on fire. I got on the phone, obviously dialed 999, and they were asking me questions. Don't ask me questions, just get the people here. Get whoever, ambulances, police, fire brigades, that's what you need. Fire brigades, more important, get them here, quick. Stay with me the rest of my life.
Several weeks after the accident, he found something at the scene that he thinks Billy might want back.
Do you remember, John?
No, it wasn't.
This is the farmer.
No, but it rung up and I do thank. I can't thank you enough, honestly. When you got off the phone about the watch, I was sat
obviously
there.
I wanted to make sure he got it back, and obviously today's the day I give him it back, his watch.
And obviously, fire brigade had not bothered about watches, and they just cut it off and throw it away. It's no problem. So he said, "I brought you it, you know." And I mean, it was only a working watch, but he said it might have been sentimental, and that set me off again. So that was a tearful afternoon.
Nice smile. Lovely.
It was a terrible accident that Billy was involved in. It did turn his life upside down. But it was fantastic to see the look on his face when he saw his old fire crew. I think Billy's made a great recovery. I think it's down to his attitude. He was determined to get well despite everything that had happened to him.
I now treat every day as the last day, you know, as if there's, you know, make your best of every day and never be bored. If being miserable was going to get me better quicker, then I've been the most miserable bloke in the world. But it doesn't, does it? So there's no point, is there? I take my hat off to them to do it, not in a hospital, but out there in the field. You know, they're doing it at the side of a road or in a field or wherever. And I take my hat off to them, all of them.
Coming up, there's a life-saving flight for a badly injured biker.
His airway's good, breathing's okay, and just keeping on top of everything.
And it's the weekend and Flying Dr. Andy is treating the casualties of a night on the town.
We have to treat him as though he's got a neck or a back injury.
Air ambulances don't have blue lights and two-tones, but they do get top priority from the air traffic controllers who police the skies. And sometimes they need it.
Contractor Darren Patterson was lucky to survive when a 7.5-ton crane drove over his leg on a remote farm on the edge of the North York Moors. His leg is badly crushed and there are fears he might lose it. Paramedics Pat and Sammy are trying to get him to hospital in Middlesbrough as quickly as possible. But there's a problem.
Right, we're going to try James Cook, but the weather's closing in from the north. Steve's going to set off and try and head towards James Cook. If we have to redivert, we'll get in touch with it on a sat phone and we'll redivert to Scarborough.
To add to their weather worries, their passenger is terrified of flying.
Can't believe that you've got me in an aeroplane and I can't see. My wife's trying to get me to go on holiday for 5 years.
If Darren could see out the window, he'd be even more nervous. To reach James Cook Hospital in Middlesbrough, Helimed 99 must cross the Cleveland Hills and much of the area is covered in low cloud. And soon, they're flying into a hailstorm.
Do we have any options if we can't go that way? Scarborough and Middlesbrough are both exactly the same distance from this scene. Could Scarborough handle something like this? Yes, I suspect so. They'll be able to manage the trauma, yeah.
Pilot Steve Cobb must stay in sight of the ground to navigate, but the weather's getting worse.
It was snow and hailstorm quite badly, and I could see it flashing past the aircraft. And I'm trying to calm the patient down and allay his fears about flying, and I'm just thinking, this isn't good. It got to the point where I think at one point Sammy asked Steve if it'd be a good idea to put the aircraft down and call for land ambulance to come and take the patient off us and convey the patient by land ambulance.
But the crew know Darren needs emergency surgery. He hasn't got the time to go by road. Steve turns back the way he came and decides to head south to Scarborough instead. The only sure way to find their destination is by flying over the sea and following the coast.
Yeah, we've had to redivert. We originally wanted to go to James Cook Hospital at Middlesbrough with this gentleman, but due to the weather and the weather closing in on top of us on the moors, we had to come onto the coast and travel down south along the coast to Scarborough to try and avoid all the bad weather. These April showers, this hailstone.
We were flying literally with the cliffs on our right hand side, and we used that as our visual reference point. I only had to look out to the left and it was total sea.
Pat was once a rating in the Royal Navy, but Sammy doesn't like the sea. The whole team remember her fear of the Dunker, a simulator which recreates a crash landing on water. Now she's flying over the cold North Sea for real.
I have done my dunk tank training and I wasn't anxious about that. The fear was, how would I then get this patient out if we were to go in the sea?
But they've made it. Half an hour after taking off, Helimed 99 arrives in Scarborough. It's a moment of relief for everyone on board.
Well done, Daz.
You landed, Daz. What a flight for a first flight.
I know. Just in the pothole.
Darren is within minutes of specialist care, but he's a worried man.
You'll even fly your way through Mallorca.
Looks like you could be on one leg now, doesn't it?
No, don't worry about that, Daz. You're going to be fine.
All right.
Coming up, will Darren lose his leg as he fears?
We don't know how shattered it is.
Or will surgeons be able to repair the damage done by 7.5 tonnes of crane? And flying Dr. Andy is called to a pedestrian knocked down in the city centre.
We have to treat him as though he's got a neck or a back injury.
Now, let's catch up on that rescue operation that has taken the crew of Helimed 99 30 miles from base, and the paramedics are worried.
On a disused coal tip in South Yorkshire, the paramedics are fighting to save the only survivor of a head-on crash between two off-road motorbikes. Biker Carl Turner died instantly in the impact, but his friend Scott Moffat has sustained a broken arm and leg, a collapsed lung, and he could have a head injury. Flying Dr. Andy Pountney has been working to stabilise Scott for a life-saving flight to hospital.
Hopefully got the pain under control, we've got the fractures reduced and immobilised now. Keeping an eye on his chest, his oxygen levels are okay at the moment, so we're happy with that, but we're keeping a very close eye on that. Taking him to Pinderfields, which is going to be the quickest A&E department for us to get him into.
At last, Scott's ready for takeoff. The scene of the accident is a huge area of wasteland. It's in remote areas like this that Helimed 99 comes into its own. Land ambulances simply couldn't make it here. Biking here is illegal, but it's been going on for 20 years. All the crew of Helimed 99 know is that the crash had devastating medical consequences for their patient.
Yeah. So how did the other guy die? I don't really understand what's. We can't get any. Seem to get any. Nobody's seen it happen.
Okay, S07.
Yeah, we're all clear. I've told the cops we've taken off. Okay. Oh, we're clear here, right?
Thank you.
Scott's condition is carefully monitored throughout the flight.
Just looking for any adverse observations en route, and just keeping an eye on him. His airway's good, breathing's okay, and just keeping on top of everything, just to make sure that things are all right when we arrive at the hospital, and we can get him onto the ambulance safely and down to casualty.
Scott was in hospital at Wakefield within 10 minutes. Despite the severity of his injuries, he went on to make a good recovery. But he still finds it difficult to speak about the accident that killed one of his best friends. Back home near Doncaster, Carl's mother Michelle, girlfriend Emma, and their 2 children have only memories of a bike-mad son, partner, and dad.
He just lived his life at top speed, and he just wanted to cram everything in. Everything he did, I think he just I suppose he knew he was going to have a short life.
An inquest into Carl's death revealed that neither rider could have seen the other as they approached a blind bend in opposite directions. And, crucially, Carl wasn't wearing a helmet.
You know, I think parents, if kids have got bikes, to make sure they do wear proper headgear and body armour. It can save their lives.
Despite the tragic outcome of the accident, Carl's mum is thankful for the paramedics who raced to save both riders.
I think it is really important, you know, the job that they do, obviously, because where the accident did happen, there was no way an ambulance could get up there. So we had to rely on the air ambulance.
Coming up, the workman run over by a mobile crane is on his way to the operating theatre. But can surgeons save his leg?
The air ambulances are kept in the air by charity and sponsorship, and there's very few patients who don't become big supporters after their rescue.
But there's another group of donors who keep the service in the air. They're doctors like Andy Poutney, who give up their own time to help save lives. Andy's been flying with Helimed 99's paramedics for 3 years. And today, another patient's going to benefit from his expertise. On the outskirts of Doncaster in South Yorkshire, a young driver's injured. His car's left the road and rolled into a field. Andy's one of a new breed of doctors who are venturing out of casualty departments and taking their life-saving skills to roads and fields across the country. For patients who are seriously injured, Andy's expertise can sometimes make the difference between life and death.
The paramedics, obviously, you know, they're very experienced, they're very well trained paramedics, and they can deal with the vast majority of situations. Just occasionally an incident will come up where we can bring something else to that job, whether that be, you know, ketamine for a very strong pain relief, whether it be that they need a small surgical procedure, the chest intervention, whether they need an emergency anaesthetic to help control their airway or their breathing or to control head injury. So in those instances it is useful to be able to take a medic to the scene.
ETA 4 minutes and they say the patient's quite agitated, Andy.
Okay then.
This is not good news. Andy's used to dealing with patients in hospital with the help and support of an A&E unit, but without this backup, this could be a very difficult situation.
Give me some big breaths.
Got any information like
Just
that?
take some big breaths.
Andy's with him, the paramedics are on scene and they've stabilised him to this point. We just get aircraft ready and because he's packaged already, we'll sort of get him off as quick as we can.
And there's good news. Numerous tests and scans at hospital revealed no long-term damage. Back in more familiar surroundings, Andy's back on shift at Dewsbury District Hospital.
Same on both sides. Down here.
I've been a doctor now for about 10 years or so, and the majority of that has been working in kind of acute specialties of one sort or another.
Wiggle your feet about for me.
Working in the emergency department is great because you get a huge variety of stuff through here, but actually when you're out of hospital doing it, it's not only the variety of the case mix, it's just the variety of locations and scenes as well. And every incident that you attend, whether it be a road traffic collision or an assault, shooting, stabbing, or a medical problem, they're all different, and being in an environment out of hospital brings its own challenges, which is quite nice.
Modern A&E units are full of state-of-the-art equipment with specialist staff on hand 24 hours a day. But being able to take at least some aspects of hospital directly to a patient is a challenge.
It can be dark, cold, wet, rainy. Often you're by yourself, it can be a very kind of lonely place out there. You haven't got all the backup and support you've got around you in hospital.
It's Saturday night and in Leeds city centre, revellers are already down in the pints and swallowing the shots. It's going to be another busy night for the ambulance service, but tonight they've got backup. As well as being a flying doctor, Andy also uses a more conventional means of transport to get to his patients. He's part of the West Yorkshire Medic Response Team.
Primarily we're going to look at trauma jobs, so RTCs, so road traffic collisions, shootings, stabbings, falls. So the Leeds Hospital Fund through St John Ambulance kindly agreed to support the Medic Response scheme for a period of 2 years. know where this road is.
And it's not long before the team are dispatched to their first job.
Healy Road. We've been tasked to an RTA pedestrian knockdown down in Ossett, about 9 miles from the job, so we should be there in probably 7 or 8 minutes.
Tonight, Andy's training another emergency doctor, Ross Hemingway.
We're just waiting for further information. If a crew get there before we do, otherwise we'll be first on scene and see what injuries we find.
They might not be in a helicopter, but in a high-performance car on blue lights, they can still race to the scene at speeds of well over 80 miles an hour. And they need to. It's clear the man suffered some serious injuries.
All knockdowns have potential to be serious injuries, but you know, we just have to wait and see till we get there. It depends what speed the car was doing, what's happened to the guy when he's been hit.
Other emergency services are on the scene, but Andy and Ross can deliver life-saving treatment that paramedics can't. And tonight, that expertise might prove vital.
Where are we going to go from here? Pinders?
Yeah, mate.
First job, relieving the man's pain.
So you're not allergic to anything, are you? No. This is some morphine. Might make you feel a bit dizzy, a bit lightheaded, but it should help the pain, okay?
The pedestrian was crossing the road when he was hit by an oncoming car. Morphine has eased his pain, but Andy must now put his badly broken leg into a splint.
Is it any better after the morphine?
A lot better.
Just tell him we're going to have to just pop it into the box. I want him to grit his teeth, all right? And it'll be done in 3 seconds. Everybody ready? Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Nicely done, guys, well done.
Even with the leg stabilised, he needs to be in hospital fast.
Ross, are you happy to take the head while we do a log roll onto the board? Are you happy to explain to him what we're going to do? Nice one. The main injury is his leg. He's got quite a nasty open fracture, which was fairly angulated and displaced. He's in quite a lot of pain with that. He's had some morphine and some Entonox, which have allowed us to reduce it, get it back in line. Obviously, because he's got a very, very painful injury, that may distract him from any other injuries. So we have to treat him as though he's got a neck or a back injury until proven otherwise with x-rays and so on at the hospital. So we'll take him down to Pinderfields and you can look at it in more detail down there now.
There's only so much Andy can do in the middle of a busy road, and he knows better than anyone that patients with such serious injuries need the expert care that only a hospital can provide.
As a doctor attending that job, I was able to administer morphine to that patient, which the paramedics that were on the scene couldn't have done. So that allowed us to get on top of the gentleman's pain quickly, to sort out his leg quickly, which allowed us to actually get him packaged and away from the scene quickly. Obviously it's freezing cold tonight, so the less time he was laid on his back on the floor, the better.
Right, they're on Ockler Road, they were heading up towards Lead 16.
It's a hectic start to the night for Andy and Ross, but they're about to get a job all ambulance crews dread.
3 road traffic's been called in at pretty much the same time, so we're trying to prioritise them through the information that the communications centre have got. The one that appears to be the most serious, that from the information we've got, is actually apparently involving an ambulance which is on its way to a job and has been involved in an accident itself.
It's becoming clear that the ambulance has been involved in a serious accident. Andy and Ross know they could end up treating colleagues and even friends.
Yeah, I mean, particularly if you get there and it's people you know. You know, obviously there's kind of an emotional side attached to it there, but it's a case of just trying to detach from it and get on with the job as necessary. But as you say, yeah, it can be difficult if it's people that you know.
So we're the first on scene by the look of it.
Andy and Ross are the first to arrive and quickly start assessing the patients. But much to everyone's relief, the ambulance crew and the car driver have had a lucky escape and there's no serious injuries. For Andy and Ross, this is a graphic example of the dangers medics face when working out of hospital. Back in the city centre, and a night's hard drinking is beginning to take its toll.
It's 11:30 now, so all the pubs have kicked out. Town's quite busy actually at the moment, so there's always potential for people to start fighting and fall over when they're drunk and so on. And then a bit later on in the night, often we start picking up more road accidents.
To be honest with you, through city centre.
Andy's prediction is proved right. There's been a fight outside a club and the crew are quickly on their way. Andy and Ross have to be careful. Every weekend, ambulance crews are the victims of violent assaults when they're actually trying to treat patients. This is a volatile atmosphere, and it's clear one man's come off worse. He's got a nasty facial injury, and Andy and Ross quickly call for backup.
On to M&S and just look back and see your car.
With the man in the hands of a local ambulance crew, they can leave the clubbers to enjoy the rest of the night. But Annie and Ross's hopes for a quiet end to the evening are all quickly forgotten.
So the job that we got through is a male, a Russian male, we don't know his age at the moment, who's been stabbed. We don't know exactly where he's been stabbed. The caller coming through has said that he's stopped breathing and his heart possibly stopped beating, he hasn't got a pulse. So it sounds like he's in what we call cardiorespiratory arrest.
A street in Bradford is being transformed into a crime scene, and police think the attacker might still be in the house.
He might need anaesthetising, might have such severe chest injuries that we could do specialised surgical procedures.
The injured man's lying in the basement, and his survival depends on how fast Andy and Ross can get to the scene. But before they can start treating him, the police must ensure it's safe for them to even get close.
Basically, we've just got information of where the standoff point is going to be. Clearly, with an incident like this out of doors, patients stabbed, we think that they're potentially very serious, if not fatally injured. We don't want to just be wading in. The assailant may still be there. We haven't got any information, so we need this scene to be safe before we go near it. So we've just been given the standby point, just arriving now. So we're going to wait here until we're assured by the armed police that the scene is safe for us to go in.
Finally, the police have the situation under control, and the team get the call that it's safe to go in. But they could be too late.
Because the police wanted to preserve evidence, they'd asked the staff of the actual ambulance just to go down and confirm that the patient was dead. We then got a shout from one of the police officers that the patient actually may not be dead, and that we should go in and assist. And at that point, everybody went into the house, and it was chaos. Police were kicking down doors, dragging people out handcuffed. We were kind of trying to battle past those, trying to get to the patient, and we were directed down into a basement. And when we got down there, it was just kind of carnage, really.
Andy and Ross perform a major surgical procedure on the man's chest before racing to the waiting ambulance. Despite all of their expertise, Andy and Ross know he'll be lucky to survive. The injured man needs surgery as soon as possible, and the team must work tirelessly just to keep him alive long enough to reach hospital. But this time, it's not enough. The man suffers huge blood loss and dies in hospital. For Andy and Ross, it's a disappointing end to a long shift, but it's jobs like these that show it's not just hospitals that need the life-saving skills of a doctor.
A ride in the air ambulance is often the start of a long recovery process for the patients the HeliMed team pick up. But for some, going home is a major milestone.
39-year-old Darren Patterson's a long way off that day. His leg was crushed by a mobile crane as he worked on a drainage contract in North Yorkshire. The bones in his lower leg are broken in several places, and paramedic Pat fears the blood supply to his right foot may have been compromised. The team have battled through appalling weather to reach hospital in Scarborough, but Darren fears the worst.
Yeah, you've broken it. Without a shadow of a doubt, you've broken it.
It's shattered.
Yeah, we don't know how shattered it is. All right, yeah. There'll be a lot of work to be done on it. I'll give you that. We'll have to find out how good your the blood supply to your leg is, and the nerve damage and stuff like that. The nerve damage. So they'll assess all that here, and then they'll see. It probably will be an operation either today or tomorrow, just to stabilise the leg.
Darren will soon find out the truth. He'll be wheeled straight to the orthopaedics department of Scarborough District Hospital.
That's it, Daz.
For pilot Steve Cobb, it's a chance to talk, at last, about a flight he won't forget.
He'd never flown in any type of vehicle before, so he was a little bit wary about that.
So although people were thinking, you know, this weather's getting deteriorating quite a bit here, then we didn't like to say anything to the patient at the time. So it was more of a case of nodding and winking and working out between us what we were going to do and say.
Pick a major road and ask for an ambulance on my land, and we can sit it out.
Sammy a few times said, well, we can use a road ambulance if we need to do, just sort of prompting me, reminding me that we did have options. And we just literally, we didn't say, well, where we're going, we just said, oh, we'll go to Scarborough instead. And literally just kept it all low-key for the sake of the patient. A few days before, it was bright sunshine. 2 hours later, it was bright sunshine. Coming back to Leeds, it was fantastic. But just at that time, very widespread thunderstorms and cells there, and we just happened to be in the wrong place for that one.
And less than a week later, Darren finds out what the future holds. He's recovering from a complex operation that could be the first of several. And the good news, he's improving fast.
I did think that I was going to lose it below the knee at one stage, because I looked at it and it didn't look very good. Obviously I got my boot off and it didn't look very good at all, but it's marvellous what they can do in it. I've got them 4 pins in, holding what bone that is left together, and they're stopping for a week until the swelling goes down, and I get another 2 steel pins to replace the main bones. And my ankle and my heel are shattered, but they're just going to have to sort of mend themselves.
Darren won't be forgetting his first flight in a hurry.
Lucky I got here as quick as I did. That's for sure. Well, I feel if it had been a lot longer, you know, you could have lost your leg if it hadn't been for the air ambulance. There's a big difference between like 20 minutes and 50 minutes of something's vital, isn't there? I've never been in a helicopter or an aeroplane in my life. I've never been as pleased to see one arrive.
It's amazing what doctors can do now with fractured limbs. It's not that many years ago when maybe Darren would have had his leg amputated. He may be a long time on crutches, and it may seem a long time as well for him. But it won't be long till he's back up and round, back on 2 feet.